Include DNA samples belonging to Madeleine. Our crime correspondent Martin Brunt is in Praia de Luz. Martin, the judge has the file now. The prosecution only received it today. It was with them for a short time. What's likely to happen now?
Well, the prosecutor appears to have already reached that very quick decision that, in his view, there is a case to answer, but it has to go now to the judge, and it will ultimately, as far as we understand, be for the judge to decide if there are to be charges. We've just been talking to a Portuguese criminal lawyer who said that such a decision by the judge would normally be taken within 10 days. There isn't really a fixed time limit, but that's the tradition, and most cases are decided in terms of excuse me, charges or no charges within that 10-day period. So within the next 10 days the McCanns could find if they are to be brought back here to be charged in connection with Madeleine's death. That's the accusation that was put to them during questioning, and it seems that that is on that basis that the prosecutor has already decided that a judge should make that decision.
Martin, there have been lots of different claims around the DNA evidence. What exactly do we know?
Well, we were reporting last night that the forensic scientists in the UK had found three instances of Madeleine's DNA. One in the apartment, but crucially two in the hire car that the family hired 25 days after she disappeared. But the crucial part of the evidence appeared to be a complete match of Madeleine's DNA in the boot of the car. Now, that assertion it's moved forward today with reports in local media that yes, there has been a find of her DNA in the boot of the car, reportedly locally from body fluid. Now, we don't know exactly what body fluid, and I say this is only a report in the local media, but it begins to suggest that perhaps they're talking about body fluid from a decomposing body, and that might just explain why police here seem quite confident that Madeleine is now dead.
Well, hi everyone, and I'm so happy to be here. You probably remember that clip. I think most of us remember the clip from September of the 10th, just after they'd been made Guidos. But I'll get back to that later. First of all, I want to welcome Shirley for joining me. Hi, Shirley.
Hello.
Hi there. It's been so long, and I've missed so much. Shirley is one of the greatest. I just admire her. I mean, you just know the right words to say. Some of them are not the best words.
You're not a fan of some of them.
But no, you're great. And thank you so much for being here. Shirley was not part of the Maddie community for that long, but I guess you've learned a few things by doing some of the lives with me.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. It's definitely been enlightening. A lot of stuff that, I would have to dig and watch tons of videos, and I can just watch one of your lives and get a whole bunch of information. I love it.
Or you could watch one of Mark Sonokonoko's podcasts.
Well, that's always a given. And no, I'm still not going to try to say his name.
Yeah. And you know what, Shirley, I was just thinking today, maybe one day we'll get Jeff, oh golly, the name escapes me, but Jeff, the dog handler.
The dog handler. Yeah, he was supposed to be on at one time a while ago, and then something happened. Yeah, I would love that. That's totally awesome.
He was eager to come on, but that day he wasn't able to make it. And then I think I ran into problems with doing lives, and we just never got into it. So one day, because I know that was what you were really looking forward to.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And things like that. Yeah. But anyway, let's get in. I do want to thank everybody for being here. It's been a while, and I kind of decided to do this live just within the last couple of days because I've been working on the research regarding a few of the days during the time from the holiday, well, during the holiday, right through to when they were made arguidos, and particularly the triangle. Now, as I mentioned in the description, back in the early days, when I was in the Maddie Case Files, which absolutely were top notch, they were the ones who spent more than 4 years translating the files voluntarily. The admin, Astro, Kazlux, Inez, and Joanna, and a lot of other members spent years translating those files for us. So we wouldn't have been able to do the research we've done if they hadn't done that voluntarily. And that's the reason that some people question, why do we not, particularly on my group, HDH Controversy, Heidi Ho Controversy, we don't host any videos where somebody makes money, unless they're a professional, of course, or sometimes we can justify it. But that is an absolute, that nobody basically in the community made money, because how dare we make money after so many people put 4 years of effort into translating the files. So I just wanted to make that clear, because sometimes people don't realize the reason we don't take money, apart from the fact that we really don't want to make money from Maddie's demise. Now, in the previous video that I did a little while ago, back when there was snow, I can't remember the date, I went through from about the Sagres issue, the triangle. The triangle was always an issue, and it was actually discussed a great deal in the Maddie Case Files, and there was a few people there that absolutely really had some great stuff that we put together. But I don't think, and I would love if somebody could correct me on this, I don't think we actually put together, or I actually saw anything that put the timeline together. So we remembered some of this and some of that, and we knew there were discrepancies in the Sagres issue. But I started to put some stuff together, and actually I had contacted Kenny Johnson from What Really Happened to Madeleine McCann Forum, which, if you're not a member, you must join. It's great. And the admin are really good, as well as Heidi Ho admin, Carrie and Cherry. I mean, Cherry, you won't get a better admin than that. I'm sorry. She is there. She is right there. She's kind of doing everything for me that I should actually be doing and haven't had the chance to do. So thanks so much, Cherry, and give her a thumbs up when you go in the group. But anyway, I'm digressing. I'm sorry. The triangle was always an issue, and I was going to coordinate some stuff with Kenny, along with somebody else, to try and put it together. But it's such a huge effort to actually get all the details together, and it's not something that I've had time to be able to do. I would like to do it, but I have the very basics, and that's what I want to discuss with you today. It's something which really I absolutely believe in. I know it's sometimes I go into something which a lot of people really can't get their head around. First of all, you have to know my original research, which is that I absolutely believe that something happened to Maddie on initially between Sunday lunchtime, when she was seen by the cleaner's daughter, and Tuesday morning, when some huge discrepancies started. So I knew there was reason for the discrepancies, but I never saw anything after the Sunday that gives me any kind of proof that she was actually seen credibly. And well, when I was doing a live, I'm not sure which one it was. Maybe it was the last one. No, it wasn't the last one. But anyway, it was a live. And as I'm reading from some of my old initial research page, it's something suddenly gave me a light bulb moment. I knew a lot of what had happened during that time, which I've put down into a calendar. You can read every single day of the month, right from May right through to September when they left. And I knew, and this is the issue with the triangle, that sometime in June there was an issue with a disused barn, and the police apparently finding an Aztec towel, which looks like it had Maddie's DNA on it, and fibers from the scenic. This is not something that I believe is in the files. I don't think it is. I'm not absolutely sure, but I don't believe it is. And please feel free to correct me on anything. And if you do see something and you really feel that I'm wrong in what I say, please do make sure you let me know, because I don't need to be right. I need the truth. So please let me know. That's one thing. And also, don't feel that it just because I believe something that you have to believe it. It's up to you what you believe according to the knowledge. It's one thing to listen to me and think, yeah, I could be right. But you know what's important? You really should confirm. Now, I won't be showing a heck of a lot of stuff to confirm all the details. Otherwise, I get into trouble trying to find everything. But I can certainly back up everything I say with knowledge and what happened. Now, I have named this live, was Maddie's body moved from Sagres to Huelva on July the 27th, 2007. I believe that is exactly what happened. When I did the last live, I came, as I just mentioned, into a light bulb moment. So I knew Sagres was an issue. But when I was reading out from my old research, it said that Jerry, or it reminded me that Jerry, at least Jerry, I don't know about Kate, had gone to Sagres on the Monday. Now, there was nothing written in the details about that in the files that I know of. I remember Duarte Levy, he commented that they went there. And since I have had some newspaper articles that do show the fact that he was apparently, at least Jerry, was apparently seen in Sagres on the Monday. I mean, they arrived in Praia de Luz on Saturday afternoon, and yet Monday they're in Sagres. How odd is that? There was also a mention, and this is, I don't know, it's not been confirmed, that Jerry was interested or was talking about a disused barn. Now, I do not know that for a fact. It's just what's been written, but certainly it was written, I believe, prior to the June the 9th issue, when Jerry and Russell had a conversation between each other from a disused barn. So I think there very likely could be something. I do know that the police were involved down in Sagres and were questioning stuff. Now, I think Tony felt it was something to do with Nino Lourenco. I think that's Nuno Lourenco. I think that's his name. I don't really hold a lot towards Nuno Lourenco. It's not something I've really studied, but I do believe that the police were interested in what happened in Sagres. And when I read it out and realized that Sagres was the place that I believe Maddie was taken to on June the 8th, and I'll get into that in a minute, that's when I thought, hang on, if that's the case, Sunday lunchtime was what I believe is the last time anybody had actually seen her with any proof. I'm not saying that she wasn't seen. I just didn't see any proof. So Sunday lunchtime through till Tuesday morning, where the discrepancies started happening. And if Jerry was going to a place that we later find may very well have been a place where they took Maddie's body, why would he be going on the Monday? Is it that something happened to her on the Sunday? It doesn't seem credible, but it's certainly something that really put, I saw it, I thought, wow, that's possible. So that is where it started. Something may have happened. Jerry may have gone down to Sagres to seek out somewhere for Maddie. I do believe something happened to her early in the week. I think a lot of people do, for different reasons sometimes. But they would have had to have found a place for Maddie during the course once something happened. Now, I believe all the things that happened, which was earlier in the week, we don't know what day. I do know with all the discrepancies, they were trying to hide something from Tuesday on. There were so many discrepancies. But what would have happened was if Maddie had died, which we don't believe there was anything apart from that they were responsible for that we don't know. But something happened. So where did they place the body? Now, Gonzalo Amaral believes that they took her to an apartment, which was questionable. I think there was an issue with the apartment where once Jerry had said something about taking a drunk into this apartment, or I don't know. But as Gonzalo Amaral says, whether there was a freezer there or a fridge, it can't be told now. They don't know. So if that's where she was initially taken, at some point along the way, let's get to June the 8th. This June the 8th or June the 9th, I'm not sure, it's very specific. But what happened was that there was a ping between Jerry and Russell. Now, I don't know who was where, but they were 25 kilometers apart, and one came from Sagres, and the other ping was, I believe, in Praia de Luz. So who was where, I don't know. But they denied this. And the Express, who very often had the real news, but they had to delete a lot after they were accused and sued. So a lot of it was deleted. We have it all. We still have it. But this is what was in the news at that time. And it's very, very interesting to note that, okay. Oh, okay. I've just read that handsets can be tracked to an area of just a few yards. So they probably know exactly where it was. And now the hunt centers on the disused barn. I know on the other live I read it out, but I hope you bear with me because I think this is such an interesting article that really places Jerry and Russell O'Brien in a place where ultimately it appears that the police found an Aztec towel, which a lot of us remember, but this was never put into the files. And apparently it had possibly Maddie's blood and fibers from the scenic. Now, it's not in the files, but it's, I think this is pretty close to what happened. So let me just read this to you because I find it one of the most interesting. The hunt for Maddie McCann last night centered on a disused barn near Praia de Luz. I think it was in Sagres, 25 kilometers away, where police found a towel stained with what may turn out to be the little girl's blood. Now, fibers found on the towel allegedly match fibers from the hire car rented by Maddie's parents, Kate and Jerry. Portuguese detectives discussed the breakthrough when they met British police and a Crown Prosecution Service official last week at a police station in Leicester. Today, for the first time, the Sunday Express can shed light on the new avenue police are pursuing. It's very believable. It's a newspaper article, but it's very believable. Based on fresh information from mobile phone surveillance, police began a search of an area in the southeast of the resort. Now, this is where somebody needs to correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe it's southeast, 25 kilometers southeast in Sagres. Portuguese sources say forensic scientists used a substance called luminol to look for blood deposits and found 3 sites on the edges of the towel. They tested the blood deposits to see if there was a match with Madeleine's DNA. Now, although the samples were not good quality, the scientists were able to do what is called low copy analysis, which showed there was moderate support to suggest the blood deposits matched Madeleine's blood. The results were not conclusive and are not regarded as being strong enough to be presented as evidence in any court case. They also found a loaf and a carrier bag which produced the significant information, but close analysis of the towel revealed fibers which were not made of the towel material. The fiber fragments were microscopically examined against fibers found in the boot of the Renault Scenic hired by the McCanns 25 days after Maddie vanished. The Portuguese police sources say there was strong support that the fibers found on the towel matched fibers from the boot of the car. One possibly being considered by the Portuguese detectives was that the towel had at some point been in the boot of the Renault Scenic, which would explain how fibers had got on it. Now that is, to me, that is huge. I mean, we knew it at the time, and I don't think we could really hang on to it much because it wasn't in the files, and we really did try to keep on into the files. But I think now, looking back and seeing a timeline and seeing how all of this fits with this timeline, especially with some of the little discrepancies I'm just going to explain to you. This was July the 9th. What was really weird, and I don't think anybody really understood or could figure out why Jerry's blog was changed. He had a blog on July the 9th, which is this day. And if I get the right one, you can see it here. He changed the date from the 7th, from the 9th to the 11th. After we headed down to Sagres, which is the very most northwestern tip of Portugal, there is a very nice beach, and we had lunch with the family. Now, I think it initially did show as the 9th, but then he changed it to the 11th. Why? Well, I think something that really tells us something he didn't think we would actually be able to show is he said that's what happened on the 11th. This is what happened on the 11th. They were in Morocco. He needed to hide something from the 9th and pretend it was the 11th. Now, is that not a great big major flag? And here's the proof that they were in Morocco on the 11th. Not only that, and this is just a side kind of comment, is they're dressed in black. We always knew we always looked at that and thought, why would they be dressed in black? Now, if something had happened on the 9th and it was, I don't know whether, maybe they had some kind of memorial with her or something. But anyway, I can only show you what I see there. This is a map of the triangle. Now, Praia de Luz is further to the right, but on the 23rd of July, Jerry went to Washington. He was away for 3 days. During that time, Kate phoned the liaison officer, Ricardo, and was very upset and told him that she'd seen Maddie on a hill. This is what became known as the dream, which I've got videos on. And at that point, that was a turning point for the PJ. That apparently, there could have been something else involved, but that apparently was a major turning point, and that's when they brought in Mark Harrison with the dogs, with the cadaver dogs from England, because at that point, but Kate had basically claimed that Maddie was dead, that she'd passed. So they brought in the dogs. That was, they didn't bring in the dogs till the 31st, I think, of July. But anyway, that's when they started sorting them. So Jerry goes away on the 23rd. He comes back on the 26th and goes straight past Praia de Luz when he got off the plane. Miss Praia de Luz went straight over to Villa de Bispo, which actually could have a ping from Sagres, or it was in that triangle area anyway, and was there for a couple of hours. And then between June and July, prior to this, there were several nights when they would go there for just an hour, like between 6 and 7, several nights. So that was kind of odd. But once Jerry got back, that was the 26th. And why wouldn't he come straight to Praia de Luz, pick up Kate if they were going there? Who knows? But on the 27th, there was a visit to Sagres, according to the phone pings. And if you can just bear with me again. Yeah, this is the 9th. The afternoon visit to Sagres, but only one activation. So that was the 9th. And this was the 11th, first ping back in Portugal. It's hard for me to see which one is the right one. I think this is the 26th and the 27th. So on the 26th, this is where Jerry returns from the States and goes past Praia de Luz and over to Villa de Bispo and back to Boudens and then back to PDL. Now on the 27th, there's a trip to Sagres, early evening, leaves just after 5:30, would arrive just after 6 o'clock, and they left about 8 o'clock, giving him approximately just over 2 hours in Sagres before arriving back in Praia de Luz at 20:42, although it could have been any time from 7:20 that he arrived back in PDL, depending on the lack of activations. So what I discovered after checking is that the 27th, I believe, I need to double check on that. It's been a while since I visited it, but the 27th is the last day they visited that area, which tells me if her body was there, that's when they took the body. And I've said this for a couple of years. I haven't really promoted it because I have mentioned it, but I've not promoted it because I didn't have the rest of the timeline to kind of really go by. But now I'm seeing this timeline. Monday, he goes to Sagres to maybe sort what was going to happen. June the 9th, obviously something happened, and the police found details that something had happened, and they'd been there to Sagres. And then they went to visit several times afterwards, just for short periods of time. And then the 27th, 2 hours, immediately after the day after Jerry got back from Washington. But the thing is, when you take that in context with the fact that the dogs had been coming in, I think on the 31st they arrived. That's why Jerry went back, and it had to happen. It had to happen before the dogs arrived. Now, I don't necessarily believe that Jerry was driving the car at that point. When you look at the fact that on August the 2nd or 3rd, when John Corner arrived, he's always there, that's when they went to Huelva. And there was always a question about Huelva, and they have the acid lake or something like that. Now, I have read that this doesn't necessarily mean that it does dispose of a body there. I know we all thought that, but when I did look into it, it mentions, no, that's not a possibility, but who knows. Now, if I figure that maybe what happened, Jerry heard about the dogs, came back from Washington, immediately went over to make arrangements on the 26th, straight from the airport, because on the 27th they went back, maybe with Cameron, was his brother-in-law, was the one who drove the car, maybe with him, to go to into Spain, to Huelva, maybe. Well, we don't know. But the thing is, the one thing about Spain is that the police don't have jurisdiction over the pings, so they couldn't take any note of the pings, knowing if they whereabouts they went in Spain or anything, which is sad, but that may be part of the reason this was the chosen location. So if, and this is possibly what I believe may have happened, is maybe they went on the Thursday, on not sure if it's the Thursday, but the 27th, and maybe Cameron drove. I mean, I don't know for sure, but he was the other driver. And Jerry apparently arrived back in Praia de Luz. maybe he drove, took Maddie somewhere, and Jerry was supposed to have gone to Huelva on the 1st, I believe, but they ended up going on the 2nd because the police came. I think it was the 1st. Forgive me, I'm going from memory here, obviously. So if that's the case, maybe that was their trip to Huelva on the 2nd with John Corner and the photographer. I think they had a cameraman as well. The weird thing was, again, as I'm thinking this may be a possibility, again, we know that the police were questioning it because the mileage on the car, and they disappeared out of wherever for 2 hours. So is it that somebody took her there first, and then on the 2nd they went with John Corner and spent the 2 hours dealing with whatever they were dealing with? Who knows what could have happened? We have no idea whatsoever what happened to her body. So I can't even go into that. But then they went on to do their thing, passing out posters in Huelva. And the thing was, it was John Cameron, Jerry's brother-in-law, who was the one that mentioned about the food leaking in the trunk, and that the blood came out of the meat and the smell, and therefore they had to leave the trunk open. This was in July, and July 27th maybe, and they had to leave the trunk open, and Jerry Gonzalo Amaral discussed about that, and he questioned the fact, because this is where we get into the Martin Brunt video that I started with. Now, we all saw, I think, at the time, that Martin Brunt video, but we could never use it because it didn't have, for me at the time anyway, it didn't have credibility to be able to use it because it wasn't in the files. But I think it was yesterday, I think, I was going over it with Cherry and found that there was the portion at the very beginning, which I'd never really listened to back then, that after they'd been made arguidos, this was taken to the prosecutor, who put it into the hands of a judge to see whether or not they could be charged and whether they were going to have to bring them back from the UK. I mean, this was kind of major, but it's not in the files that I know of. But when you put it all together, Gonzalo tells us about the body fluids in the truck and how they went down onto the curb, and we only have, or I've only seen that there's 2 or 3 areas in the truck, in the Renault Scenic, that the dogs alerted to. But I believe one of those areas was there's a little cubby on the side of the Scenic, that it could be that it leaked through there. Now, something happened. Now, we had an admin who spent half a day pouring water to see whether or not it would go down and how it would work. We never really came to any great conclusions, except she had a lot of water in her car, but that's excuse me. But that's where. So I'm going to play the Martin Brunt clip again. and just listen and see if you find how credible it is that this was a major, this is what they could have been charged with, which is a major thing. So that must have been so frustrating for the police to have had that information and not been able to.
Sky News understands that the files, which were delivered to prosecutors earlier today, include DNA samples belonging to Madeleine. Our crime correspondent Martin Brunt is in Praia de Luz. Martin, the judge has the file now. The prosecution only received it today. It was with them for a short time. What's likely to happen now?
Well, the prosecutor appears to have already reached that very quick decision that, in his view, there is a case to answer, but it has to go now to the judge, and it will ultimately, as far as we understand, be for the judge to decide if there are to be charges. We've just been talking to a Portuguese criminal lawyer who said that such a decision by the judge would normally be taken within 10 days. There isn't really a fixed time limit, but that's the tradition, and most cases are decided in terms of excuse me, charges or no charges within that 10-day period. So within the next 10 days the McCanns could find if they are to be brought back here to be charged in connection with Madeleine's death. That's the accusation that was put to them during questioning, and it seems that is on that basis that the prosecutor has already decided that a judge should make that decision.
Martin, there have been lots of different claims around the DNA evidence. What exactly do we know?
Well, we were reporting last night that forensic scientists in the UK had found three instances of Madeleine's DNA. One in the apartment, but crucially two in the hire car that the family hired 25 days after she disappeared. But the crucial part of the evidence appeared to be a complete match of Madeleine's DNA in the boot of the car. Now, that assertion has been moved forward today with reports in local media that yes, there has been a find of her DNA in the boot of the car, reportedly locally from body fluid. Now, we don't know exactly what body fluid, and I say this is only a report in the local media, but it begins to suggest that perhaps they're talking about body fluid from a decomposing body, and that might just explain why police here seem quite confident that Madeleine is now dead.
Now, am I the only one who really only listened to that last portion and didn't take in that it was major and taken to a judge after they'd come back, after they'd been made arguidos and come back to the UK? It was given to the prosecutor, who passed it on to a judge to decide whether or not they could charge them at that point. There is an issue that we know that the police, that the forensic was a question. I do have the email that was sent to the PJ regarding the, I think it was sent to Ricardo Paiva, regarding that, yeah, it was a full match. And then it was, they reneged on it and said, oh, I'm not sure if I've got the actual one on here. Oh, it was, we made a mistake. It's been contaminated. And Gonzalo Amaral has addressed that there should still be the information on that. But whether or not that was the reason that the prosecutor or the judge did not allow that information, I think that's pretty major. Before I move on, and I think, is Emily, were you asking if we're going to do a Q&A? Certainly. Shirley's here, she can do stuff like that.
Yeah, that was Revy. That was Revy.
Oh, it was who?
Revy.
Oh, it was Revy. Oh,
yeah.
Revy. Good. Yes, just for you, we'll do it.
Yes.
But it was a couple of things from the Maddie Case Files that gives us an indication that there was some question regarding the Monday. I'm not sure if I'm going to. Okay. I've got to find it first, and you know how bad I am at finding things. Right, Shirley? See, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know what I was doing, and now I can't find it. Never mind. Yeah, there was some issues regarding why the police really didn't. There was some the crash records were held back on the Monday. Some crash records were held back on the Monday. There was barely any real information about the Monday. Going through doing all the timelines, I did them for, as most people know, for close to 4 years. I took them and I put them into tables and everything. But one thing that stood out to me was that the timelines were, Monday was very questionable. And certainly David Payne's statement was very, very, didn't have much in it. Like there was not a lot of information in it. A lot of and that in the derogatory, but basically not a lot of information. So I guess there's lots more. In fact, this is why I wanted to get together with Kenny, because we were going to really research into this, but it's huge, the amount of information to actually gather as proof. I mean, I've seen it. I've put it together and I've explained it to you. I hope you've understood what I've said. Again, everything I've said, I can back up. But if there is something that somebody finds that I've claimed it wrong because I'm working from memory, then please let me correct it, because that's one thing I don't want to give out false information. I think you know me by now. So, okay, is there anybody who doesn't understand what I've explained? Do you think, does it sound relatively, have I missed something? I don't think so. Shirley? Jerry's sister also repeated the report that Kate would be charged with accidental death. Yes, that's something. Ian, I can't remember his name, Ian, somebody from Sky News, he also said that they were preempting the fact that they were going to be charged. This was prior. Now, the judge had this information after they were made arguidos, but prior to them being made arguidos, this was, I can't remember his name, Ian from Sky, and also Philomena was questioning the fact that, you know, Kate could be charged. I mean, it was very close to being charged, and that would have been because of the body fluids in the scenic. Somehow it went past everybody, and were the forensics in Birmingham, did they really have contamination after they'd told the PJ that it was a full match and then reneged? And I'm sorry, I don't have the actual email, but that's basically what they said. Oh, sorry, you know, it was contaminated. We were wrong. No. Well, we all make our own choices. So every bit of evidence which proved the McCann's involvement, this is from Sue Curtis, either disappeared or was changed throughout the first few months. How could the UK police defend that? Well, now we're getting into another area that is, I would say, I would be considered controversial, but it's because I'm one of the few that believe that Scotland Yard actually do know the truth. I spoke to a couple of detectives there way back for quite some time. I mean, there were some great conversations, and gave me some information I'll never forget. There was two things which stood out. One was I questioned him about Jerry saying about coming in through the patio door, and yet he'd also mentioned about coming in through the front door. So that was a major discrepancy. And that's when the detective turned around to me and said, that's why it's a murder. It's being dealt with by a murder squad. That was huge. I've got that on tape. I think I've released it in some places. And the other thing is that he told me that regardless of Andy Redwood, I think it was Andy Redwood, wasn't it? Coming out and speaking to the public, he told me that, and this was at the same time, he told me, he said, we don't say anything. Anything you hear, he said, in the media is you have to read between the lines. And we do not discuss anything of, and we have no intention of discussing anything about the investigation. So anything you read about Scotland Yard, probably even if it's, if it's got some substance, there's something you need to read between the lines. And I've often done that when I've read it and I've looked and I thought, yeah, I see how they've kind of done it. So I absolutely believe that Scotland Yard do know the truth. And maybe I'm one of the few that believe this. And I know Isabel. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, Isabel McFadden, she was going to be on today, but we're having, she's coming on hopefully one night this week to discuss about the book with Brunt, I can't remember.
Lizzie, can you hear us? Because you froze. Lizzie, can you hear us? Okay. She will be back in just a minute. No, it's not you. Lizzie froze and dropped, so give her a minute and she'll be back. So I pinned a comment up there for her to read when she comes back. I'm kind of keeping track of all of them, and when she gets back, she will address them. No, I'm still here. I was messaging with Lizzie. She's having a problem with that laptop, so she's going to be trying to get on another laptop. In the meantime, if anybody would like to come up that has a lot more knowledge about this than I do, there's the link. Revy, it's, she has so many problems with her laptops. I don't know what she just said, that she's trying to get on the other laptop, maybe because the one she's on takes too long. Wait, I think she's here. Are you here? Okay. Lizzie.
I'm here.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine.
So how did we get on while I was gone? I'm afraid it's my laptop. I thought it was the internet. It lost the internet, but I thought it was the laptop. But oh well.
Oh.
So
I'm gonna go back up because I had.
And this one doesn't hang on very easily either,
So I'll just put comments up. There's some comments I'll put up there. Can you read them?
I think there's a lot of people who believe Scotland Yard covered up for the McCanns. Is that the one?
Yep, that's one.
Or am
Nope, that's it. I'm just putting comments up. And then if you
want behind times here, it does not like doing anything. Never mind, we'll get there. Wasn't that a psychic super? Oh, well, as I was saying, can you hear me okay, Shirley?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I'm not lagging or anything.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, hopefully not. Sorry about that, everybody, but at least we got to the end of basically what I was trying to explain, and now we're into the questions and answer bit, right? So we're not going to keep it too much longer, but is it okay with you, Shirley, if we just give it a little bit longer?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. I just want to address with the Scotland Yard, I was in the middle of explaining that I'm one of the few people that believe that Scotland Yard do have the knowledge. And when people wonder, 92,000 again, I don't believe that's got anything to do with searching for Maddie. I don't think they could justify that, and I don't think they would need it. But what I do believe is that the Portuguese police know exactly what happened. I don't think they're short of anything. Every time I'm coming up with this research, the police have been there. The police know what happened, and I believe they know what I've been telling you today. But they haven't got to the point that they can actually charge them. And as it stood with the files, it was never known or proven whether it was an abduction or whether the parents were complicit. So they couldn't actually charge anybody because they didn't know the details of what happened. Any proof. They couldn't prove it was an abduction. They couldn't prove that it wasn't. So nobody could be charged, and that's probably where it still stands today. Maybe it's going to rely on somebody speaking, the lawyers for the Tapper 7 have told us that they can't speak. We also believe the possibility of a super injunction, which means that they can't even explain, they can't speak, they can't discuss the super injunction. Diane Webster, it looks like she had mentioned about a super with a capital S and then inaudible. Absolutely believe it was injunction, and Carter Ruck are well known for their super injunction. So this is what keeps everybody, I believe, from talking about it. Why the papers can't. I mean, there is somebody that I do want to go over it again just to see whether or not well, actually, it's Mark Selma Pinocco. He's in Australia. And what I wanted to ask him was whether or not, if he actually looked into it, because he was interested in it when I spoke to him, if he looked into it, whether he came across anything, but then he wouldn't be able to tell me. So that really doesn't tell me a lot. But I do believe it's got a lot to do with a super injunction, or totally scared. I mean, can you imagine one person opening up now that was within the case kind of thing? I mean, it'd be more than they could bear. That's been the case since day one. Nobody would want to, same as Catriona, the nanny. I don't believe for 1 minute she was involved in anything. A lot of people disagree, I may be wrong, but she'd be too scared to open her mouth. I mean, if there was any question of whether in her mind she thinks, oh golly, I don't remember seeing Maddie during the week, because of the other Russell O'Brien's child being similar. She took her as being Maddie, maybe. And do you think she'd have the guts or be able to come out and say, oh, sorry, no, I didn't see her all week in the crash? No, it's stuff like that is not going to happen. So I believe that Scotland Yard, sorry, that rambled a bit, but Scotland Yard, and I hope Scotland Yard know, and they can't do anything or release anything until Portuguese police, because it's the Portuguese police investigation. The only stuff that Scotland Yard can deal with is the fund or fraud or other stuff. They cannot deal with the investigation, so it's not their case. They cannot do that. So it kind of fits for me, and I've always believed that, because the detectives I spoke to were very, very, very positive about the fact that we will not know what happened within Scotland Yard. It will not be discussed. Under the radar, he said. And the fact is, they used a murder squad. So that's why I believe. It's up to everybody else how it is and how the actual truth is. I may be totally wrong, but you know what? I've been at this, and many of us have been at it for 17 years. If you think that just because I think Scotland Yard might not be telling the truth, I'm going to give up, no, I'm not. So, and I just want to say, if Heather's arrived yet, I know she was going to miss the first hour, but I've been waiting to say hi to Heather.
I haven't seen her.
I just don't expect to see her.
There's a question on the screen. Sue asked, do you think one of the Tapper 7 will ever come forward and tell the truth?
They wanted to. And this is what I'm saying. The lawyers have said they do want to. They did go back and want to change their story. And the thing is, and I don't think a lot of people know it, I researched into it, but I was not able to find it on the files, So I've always tried to stick with the files. But apparently on August the 20th, around the time that Mrs. Fenn was interviewed,
there was something major they wanted to bring in Russell O'Brien. And there were some major issues about Russell O'Brien, and it was something so big that apparently they brought in a lot of police ready to maybe arrest him. And now this is in the media. I think it was the Express, probably, because they got the information from the Portuguese police, Portuguese press. But it was major with Russell O'Brien, and it's something I often try and put together information regarding it. But they were watching Exeter, and there was an issue that they were going to arrest him, and that was around August of 2007. So that was interesting. But I think basically what should I say? The Tapa 7 have lawyers that have told us that they want to speak, but they can't. So, okay, Christine O'Shaughnessy. Christina. He was present for what really happened. Pat Brown was in touch with him, and he seems to be impressed. He is to send her his book. Oh, that's wonderful. When I'm sure Isabel will be on this book. She got back to me. She was going to pop on today, but it's better that we have a separate one for her on one night this week, she suggested, because she actually has been in touch with and spoken to Isabel, been in touch and spoken to him. And also you're saying that Pat Brown was in touch with him and seems to be impressed. He is to send her his book. Maybe Pat at some point would come back. She always told me that she'd be there for me. She doesn't go to other people, but she'll come to me. So but only if it's worth her while, I'm sure. So, okay. Was there another one, Shirley? Was there any other questions or some that I've forgotten?
I'm looking, hold on.
Yeah, Pat did have her book taken off Amazon. It was something that was totally wrong, but they couldn't take a chance. Has anybody heard about the detective who was to launch a new book on 2nd of May? A hotel in Lagos. No, that's the book we were just talking about, I think, isn't it? Or is this another one? I haven't actually looked into the details of the book, so I can't. I'm sorry. I tried hard. Sherry reminded me of the name today, and I can't remember the name. But I know it was Brunt, I think. I know. So, yeah, we'll be dealing with the book later on this week. I'll do another live, as long as I have to get this. Oh, maybe it was the internet, because maybe it's come back. Yeah, so, yeah, Pat is great. I mean, you know what I love about Pat? The two of us have two different perspectives. Pat is coming from a criminal profiler perspective. So she looks at the profile and that. With me, I come from a research perspective. So we're coming along with two totally different areas of research. And so we both respect each other's research, and I think she's great. So, and she's been on. I did have her on one time, and she said she'd come back. So maybe at some point we can get her back. Oh, yeah. And absolutely. And you're talking about the Channel 4 a documentary. where they were reenacting the Bundle Man, and Jane was there talking to, I think she was talking to Jerry, and she was just in tears. Or was it Matt? She was just in tears. And I've always said, I agree with you that those tears were recognizing this was all a facade and put on and fake.
So someone said earlier that, I think it was Jane, I'm sorry, I may be remembering it wrong, wants to talk, but she's afraid. My question is, afraid of what? What exactly are they afraid of? Like mafia? Afraid of food? What?
Just the repercussions in general, I would say. Even if there was no cover-up, we do believe that there's some kind of things that's questionable, and we haven't actually come up with it. Gonzalo refers to it. So we do believe there's some kind of cover-up. Now, whether this cover-up is it's probably maybe political, but it's a cover-up. But also, I remember putting together a thread one day, and it was about a puzzle piece. And what I came up with was that as with our human behavior, once we hear something the first time, and this is where Jerry's mantra of we don't know she's dead, this kind of thing, people start to believe it. And once you believe something, this is the thing that you stay with. So anybody, and certainly once you've admitted to believing it, you stay with it, and you don't, everything else that tells you differently, you defend because you believe it. And it's not just about the actual situation that is important, it's about your own integrity. And a lot of people are not willing to admit that they were wrong. A lot do, but a lot of people don't. And when it comes to the government and the some of the major figures, now what would it do to their reputation if they'd been supporting the McCanns all along, and then all of a sudden realized they were wrong? What credibility would they have? They would lose their credibility in whatever form of celebrity or political. They would lose credibility. So maybe some of the so-called cover-up is more about people not wanting to admit, because it would be too major for their lives to suddenly, after supporting them for so long, admit, oh no, we were wrong. Do you agree on that, Shirley, that could have something to do with it?
Yeah, that could be. I don't know. This is definitely something where you kind of have to be in the situation. You can guess what you would do, but until you're actually there. But my thought is, this is a little girl. How can, even after all this time, how can you live with it? Someone said that in the chat. I'm stealing somebody else's phrase. How could you live with yourself? I don't know.
Yeah, I did I've always felt that the Tapas 7 were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I did a video. And I think in the video, I actually did a message to Matthew years and years ago, and it was actually taken and sent everywhere. And apparently he saw it. It was sent to the hospital he was working at. He saw it. But it was a plea to him. And this video that I did to the Tapas 7 was really a plea of, it's hard, but do it for your family so that they don't lose, it would be hard, but do it for your family. And most of all, do it for Maddie. She deserves the respect of the truth. You know, this is the one thing. For me, I don't care about the McCanns and what they've suffered. We all know that. They definitely suffered. But as far as trying to get them put away or whatever, I really don't give two hoots about that kind of stuff. My purpose is that one day I hope that Maddie's body can be found, or at least located where she is, and she can be buried with dignity, and the world knowing what happened, and that and the family that don't know, because some family do know, but that's what I want for her to be laid to rest in peace and with dignity that she deserves. And that's all I want. I don't care what happens to the McCanns. They've suffered. They will continue to suffer all their lives. They're not an issue for me. I don't need them put away or whatever, but I do need to know what happened to Maddie. 17 years. Yeah, Maddie does deserve the truth. I think maybe the friends were bribed. I think it was more about a lot of different reasons that they've had to remain quiet, and to suddenly expose. I mean, who would be on top of that? What do you think would be the repercussions of one of the tappers right now, or somebody that knows, speaking out the truth? What do you think would be the repercussions? I think it would be tremendous. It just wouldn't be possible right now, unless the only people that can do it would be PJ. You know, because even if Scotland Yard, it's not their investigation. Hopefully they've got all the details of the fund and the fraud and all this, but that can't be brought out until the parents are held responsible. And I hope that's within our lifetime. So they all looked up to Jerry and didn't want to say anything for fear of losing their children and their jobs. I think there was, I don't know that they looked up to him, because Matt admitted he wasn't that keen on Jerry. But I think in the situation at the time, keeping in mind that back then we didn't have the Facebook groups. We had forums, which is what we initially, but there wasn't the Facebook groups. There wasn't the media that we have now. So they wouldn't have had any idea whatsoever what was ahead of them. And they would, if they'd, I mean, just looking at a scenario, if something had happened to Maddie and Jerry had said to them, listen, let's just do this, and you can get back to England and we'll get it sorted here and whatever, and just bear with us, trust us, you know. And maybe they were intimidated to do that, and that's why I believe they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, unless of course there was some something to do with one of them being involved with something. One example is if Maddie was sedated and somebody else was looking after her, because I believe they were looked after at night, that somebody else gave her a second more of the Calpol, which was totally different then than it is today. It was taken off the market back then. But if that had happened and something happened to Maddie because of that, then they would all know that they would all feel they were together and they needed to support each other, and that maybe we'll just stay together because this is what happened and Jerry's taking care of it. So let us go back to the UK. And I don't know. There's so many different scenarios that they went to Clement Freud's home twice. Now, I know apparently they went to visit him. I personally don't think there was anything apart from the fact that he was well known. They may have known something, and there may be something far deeper than just what we hear about. I mean, there could be a lot more involved with other segments of people that were questionable. We know had something to do with Comair, and Comair being a nuclear thing that he was working on, but also one thing, Gail, again, I can't remember her second name, Gail Cooper. When I checked into her, now she was living with a chap. I'm not sure if it was her son or her husband. He worked at Comair. So when Gail Cooper came up into the spotlight, now that was a question forward to, I don't know if it was the Mirror Forum. I think it was the Mirror Forum. And I put a question on that. And I was immediately, I think I was blocked or something happened. And 2 days later, the Mirror Forum went down. Now, at the same time, there was another thread in the 3A's group at the time about power, and I can't remember the details, which, again, may have been something to do with that issue, that Jerry was involved with Comair. There's so many variables about the whys and wherefores and what could have happened. So that's why I've always tried to stick to the files. I'm only moving away from it now because putting a timeline together and finding these things which are not actually in the files, but they're pretty credible and they fit together. So I believe, taken from, as a summary of what I've been through today, something happened to Maddie before Monday, between Sunday afternoon and Monday. It's possible that Jerry went to Sagres to organize somewhere. As I say, a disused barn was mentioned. I don't know. Maybe not, but then you go into June the 9th when they found the Jerry making a suspicious call to Russell. One of them was in Sagres, 25 kilometers away, and they denied it. Jerry tried to hide July the 9th by claiming in his blog that it was July the 11th, when in actual fact it couldn't have been, because at that time they were in Morocco. So why did he try to change it? On July the 9th is when the picture of Jerry walking along with Sean wearing the red t-shirt that we see that the cadaver dogs alerted to, and the day that and it was that day that Jerry claimed that the sea bass that that Sean loved sea bass, which is known to produce a kind of a cadaver odor. Excuse me a moment. So, the gas bar statements. Oh my goodness. I think we all, there's so much involved in this case. And that's why in 17 years, the research is still as strong. I mean, what I've put together today is basically most things that we know, but when you put them into a timeline and start looking, oh, there was more. Yeah. Prior to June the 9th, they had just come back from Amsterdam, where, by the way, Matthew Oldfield was there at the same time too. And that's when there was this questionable letter, De Telegraph, where it said it was located where Maddie was buried. That's one part of research I've wanted to do and get into that and try and understand what it was so questionable, this message. So this, when you put it together along with the June the 9th issue of Jerry and Russell and the Aztec towel and Jerry trying to hide that day, the Amsterdam The Telegraph message really could be part of it, but I haven't connected it yet. This is what I'm saying, there's so much to connect. Oh, did they? I haven't really looked. Did they go on? Oh, yes, I did read somewhere they went on holiday or something to celebrate. Where did they go? Okay. Does anybody know where they went on holiday? Why would they go? I don't know. Are they still together? There's so much.
Yeah, we need an answer.
Pardon?
I said that's just okay. Waiting for an answer.
Yeah, that's okay. I think possibly we've done the hour and a half. I think that's apart from losing, I do apologize for that, but you know, I have a laptop that still doesn't want to work. And I thought I had it in hand, and thankfully it worked for the first 40 minutes so that I could get out what I wanted to say. And that's why, Shirley, I really appreciate you being here, because I know that my laptop is questionable at the very least. As you remember, do you remember the time when I came on and it wouldn't take? I had to get off and reboot. But anyway, just to know that I can sit in and do it with you being there. Did you have fun while I was gone? Did you have a party?
Actually, it was quiet because I didn't have much to say, and there was a little bit going on in chat, but it was pretty quiet. We just kind of waited for you. Oh, okay. Sue's asking when you will be live again.
Well, as I just mentioned, Isabel McFadden, who she was going to pop on today, but she decided, and we both agreed. Well, she couldn't because she had something happening today. But she's coming on one day in the week. We're going to get together this week, and she's going to discuss about the book, the new book. She knows the chap she's met. I think she knows or met. I don't know. She's impressed with him anyway. She really likes him, and that should be good. And hopefully, I can stay live long enough for her to tell. This, I do apologize. I haven't been doing the lives I wanted to do, but I think you can understand now why I'm reticent to kind of plod into a live only to be suddenly cut off halfway through. So that's not good. So by having you here, Shirley, you help. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And also, thank you to everybody for being here. And was there any mods?
Me.
Oh, just you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oopsie. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, and I'm really happy to have been able to do this live. I do hope that it gives you a perspective to contemplate. You don't have to believe me blindly. Don't blindly believe anybody, but take it in and work it out with what you believe and see if it fits or if it doesn't. And I'll tell you something. Part of the reason that I am so confident in my research and what I've done is that in 17 years, I have not had one contradiction to what I've come up with. Never. There was one about Mrs. Fenn. There was some issue with Mrs. Fenn. But basically, in 17 years, every portion of my research has never been, nobody has ever been able to contradict it, say it's wrong. Apart from some people's opinion, when I say that the last sighting of Maddie was because Fatima saw her with the shoes and the plate, which we all know happened. Other people claim to have seen Maddie, but there was something questionable about every one of them. None of them proved they saw her. There was not one that's proof. So to me, you can believe that somebody saw her, but it wasn't proof. So in 17 years, if anybody can come up with anything that disputes anything of what I've said over 17 years, I will absolutely look at it and question it. But that really tells me that why I'm confident in what I claim. And I think anybody that knows me knows that I don't just want to be right. It's not about being right. It's about having the truth. So I'm absolutely willing to stand back if there's anything that I've said or done, well, not done, but that is questionable. I stand by everything that I say. A lot of it is my belief, because you have to put things together, but they fit. And I think hopefully you'll agree that this timeline is something that does fit. So anyway, I will say good night. Well, it's 5:35 for me, so it's good evening from me. And it's not even that from Shirley. What is it? 1:35?
Yep, 1:35.
Lunchtime for you, right, Shirley?
Yep.
Yeah. But for a lot of people, it's 10:35 and time for bed. It's spring, yes. And we're looking forward to, well, I'm looking forward to the summer. I can't wait. Spring and summer I love gardening. And getting back to some more Maddie, trying to fix my laptop maybe. So I'll say bye-bye for now to everybody. And again, thanks very much for being here. You know how much I appreciate everybody. And if Heather gets to see this, hi Heather, I did remember that you said you were coming in for an hour, but we haven't seen you yet. But anyway, hope you enjoy it. So, okay.
Good night.
Thank you so much, Shirley.
You're welcome.
What would I have done without you? See?
Have a good rest of your night and a good week.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the sun's just come out, so I'm going to go and sit in the garden and just look at the work I've got to do for the next 6 months. Okay, then, Shirley, and thanks everybody again. And I hope you got it and enjoyed it. Night, night, everyone.